Now, onwards to one of my favorite horror movie sequels, I think, ever. Psycho 2 is... This is truly an incredible sequel, and I know that it gets criticism because it is not the original, and there are things that changes up what the first Psycho did. Like, it kind of negates stuff from the first Psycho film that I feel like people get pissed at this movie for me, honestly, for stupid reasons, because I feel like, in my opinion, this did a perfect job of being a sequel that was just different enough and original enough that it of course, it's unwarranted, like, to have this even exist, but like most sequels, you can say that argument too, but I love that Psycho 2 exists, because this one, just everything about it I love. And this is going to be a long video, of course, because when I typically love stuff, I'll talk super in-depth about them. And I wrote a couple pages down of notes. I liked how it opens up with it's in black and white, like the black and white Universal logo. And then it shows the scene from the first one, where Marion gets killed in the shower. And Roger Ebert, I think, is the person who complained about it the most whenever this came out, that opening scene kind of was not warranted in the movie. And I could see his point. I could see why this didn't have to be in there, but I guess it made sense in the point to show that Norman Bates could still be crazy. That he could still be, after 22 years in an institution, he might still be crazy. So I like that they did have this opening of Marion getting killed from the first one, because it really would signify that Norman Bates in this movie could be crazy. But little do we know, they pulled a rug out from under us in a fantastic way. And I noticed that it was sped up a tad too, the opening with Marion getting killed. Like, it felt like it was sped up a little bit, like very, very slightly. But I noticed, since I've seen that so many times, and also it's bad because this is in HD. Like, this is the Blu-ray that I've got for Psycho 2, the Scream Factory one. But I feel like every version of Psycho 2, when it came out, it used the footage that was not in high definition of the first Psycho, so whenever it shows the opening scene with Marion in the shower, it looks worse in terms of, like, not high quality. Which is something I think is noticeable when you watch that in contrast to the rest of the movie, where the rest of the movie is in HD. But it makes sense, because this in 1983 used that negative from the first film, so it's gonna look like that. But I've noticed that too, like, it's a little sped up, and the quality for that is different than how it looks like in HD. And I just thought that was a funny little note to point out. It's not a complaint, it was just like, oh, that looks different than the rest of the movie. But then we get to the actual movie, where we get these opening credits, slow opening credits of the Bates house, while the sun's going down and the moon, and it's getting dark, and that really is effective and really works. And Jerry Goldsmith's score in this is moving, and in Psycho 3 as well, because I just watched that too. That score is just as incredible, but it's a different type of incredible for me. But the score in this truly blows me away, because it's not like the first Psycho score. It's a very melancholy, like, sympathetic feeling score, like how it sounds, because Norman Bates in this movie only, and I guess I'm just going to spoil it out because it's a spoiler review, is not the killer. And that is such a fantastic way of elaborating on a sequel but doing something different. But they did it in such a fantastic way where you didn't know throughout the movie if Norman was the killer, because they place these things so perfectly where he'll be somewhere else, and then the mother appears, and then you think it could be Lila Loomis or Mary, or you think it would be the third person who actually did it all. But I think that just how this writing is incredible for this movie, for a horror movie. Tom Holland, director of Child's Play and Fright Night, he wrote this, and just the writing in this is incredible. And I think on the commentary itself, because I've listened to the commentary before on this, he said that it's like his favorite thing he's wrote. I think that's what he said. Don't quote me on that, but I believe he said that. But But I'll keep all the rest of the movie in mystery, like as I go along, because I mean, if you've seen this, you're obviously watching it. If you've seen it, because it's a spoiler review. If not, you're getting ruined on a great twist for this movie. So, it, so yeah, just great. I love too that this has Dean Cundey cinematography, and it looks pretty good. Like it looks, like it harkens back to feel kind of like the original Psycho, even though it's in color now. It's not in black and white. But I think the way that everything is shot, I guess you could say it's copying Hitchcock in a way, but I felt like it was in such a respectful way. It wasn't like, say, the Psycho remake, or literally the Psycho remake is the exact same movie with like 5 different little differences. But that, to me, I feel like is different than this one, where Dean Cundey used cinematography and he made it remind me of the original Psycho, but it wasn't a complete hack or a copy like the 1998 remake was. And again, that's not a complaint to Dean Cundey and his cinematography. It looks fantastic. It looks great. But I feel like people will complain about this, that it feels like Hitchcock, like somebody's imitating him, and I understand from a point of view of a cinematographer who is doing a sequel to a movie, especially a movie like Psycho, one of the most famous movies ever, and using that similar cinematography. But I think it works incredibly well. It feels, honestly, if Hitchcock lived a couple more years, and I don't know if he'd do the same type of movie as this, because this movie is ballsy and different than the original, but I wonder if Hitchcock would have lived a couple more years, because this came out in 83, and I think he died in 1980. I wonder if they waited until he died to purposely make a sequel to this, because he didn't have any sequels to his films. So I wonder if they purposefully did that. Like, Universal knew whenever he dies, they're like, we're going to make sequels, and they made a lot of them. So I thought that was... I wonder if they did think that through before, like, whenever he died, like, let's make sequels to this now, like, since because he might have, like, of course, probably been not wanting to have the idea of a sequel. He probably did not want a sequel, and I understand from many directors who make a famous, great film don't want a sequel to it, like John Carpenter for Halloween. He didn't want sequels to any of them, or to the first film at all, but we got sequels to all those, too, so... like I said, I wonder if what he would have thought if he was alive when this was being made, Alfred Hitchcock. And I think, like, after it opens up with the shower scene and it shows the opening credits, it has the scene in the courtroom where Norman Bates is going to be free after 22 years. He is in perfect health, they think. But Lila Loomis, Vera Miles, is back in this movie, and she's fantastic as well in this movie as she was in the first one, but she comes in and she, like, in the courtroom, she is pissed because Norman murdered, like, how many people did it say in the movie? I can't remember, 8 or 9 people, including her sister in the first movie, so this character is bitterly angry at them letting him out. And the thing I love is that, like I said, Norman is not the killer in this movie, but she is fucking with him to a degree where she is trying to make him go mad again, to put him back in the institution. And I love that, because this character from the first movie, losing her sister, losing her husband too, like, her name is Lila Loomis now. Apparently she married Sam Loomis, which is really funny that she married the person that her sister was in relation with after she died. But yeah, Lila Loomis now, she is so pissed because she knows that he's going to go crazy again, but I love the fact that she makes a mistake herself and angrily, like, forcefully tries to make him go crazy again. And that just makes this character so much more interesting and has so much depth to her, even though she was fine in the first one. She's great in the first one too, but I love her performance in this. I love how angry she is. Like, she is drastically trying to get him back into the institution. Like, she wants to have him go mad to make sure nobody else dies. But she also doesn't realize that if you push somebody that much, that might cause her death, or that might cause deaths of more people. So, yeah, think about that, Lila Loomis. But she's fantastic in this movie. Vera Miles, I think, is great, just like the first one. She's a great connection to the first one again. I love how they brought her back. Like, that's really cool that she is in this movie. But yeah, she's really furious that, like, Norman gets out and, like, tells everybody in court, like, are you gonna really let this psychopath go free? Like, he's gonna kill again. Like she is so angry, and I love how this character, as the movie goes on, when you learn more about what she's doing, it works incredibly well. And then we get the first scene with Norman Bates going back to his house, and I've got to say, with that first scene, we see him going back to the house and remembering everything. This shows how fantastic an actor Anthony Perkins was. Just incredible. Like, in all four of the Psycho movies, he's incredible. And he blew me away in this one too. The scene whenever he goes back to the house and he has been cured, like, he is completely, like, not crazy anymore, we think. But he goes in there, and then, like, it seems like with Lila Loomis leaving stuff like notes and messing up how it looks in the house to where it messes with Norman's mind. It's incredible how Anthony Perkins plays this character and how he is perfectly fine at the beginning of the movie, and then he loses it by the end. I love that. Just incredible. Like I said, that first scene of him going back to the house, finding, like seeing the house after 22 years is really effective. And like I said, he finds Mother's note, which is, of course, not him that put that there. And then he gets a job at the local diner where he meets Mrs. Spool and Mary, two very important characters in this movie. And Mary, played by Meg Tilly, who I don't know if I've seen anything else Meg Tilly's been in, but Jennifer Tilly's sister. Like, she is, oh my god, like, she's incredible in this movie too. She is a incredible supporting character. I'd even argue to say that she and Norman are the main characters in this movie. They literally have just the amount of screen time together and just away from each other. Like, she has just as much time as he does, basically. And I love the fact that it starts out where she's got, like, boyfriend issues, and she goes to stay at Norman's motel because, or actually in the house, not the actual motel, but she stays in the house with him because she has nowhere to go. Even though you know that there's more to it than that, but I love how it is effective and how it starts out to where you don't realize what's, like, she's just got issues with her boyfriend, so she's out, not able to go where she lives. So I really like their relationship, and they've got such a great friendship. Like, it feels like it's romantic, but in a way where they don't react on it. And I think that it makes it incredible in just how these two actors play off of each other, and how Mary does sympathize with the monster, with Norman, because like she just really understands. Like, she figures out, like, how much hell he's been through, because I mean, it's like, she's not condoning that he's a psychopath, but like he has basically, like in the first movie, whenever he talks to Mary, and he has been born into this trap that cost him his whole life. Like, I think that him and Mary's relationship together is really, really great. It builds up really good. And then we get this character named Warren Toomey, who is annoying, but I mean, it purposefully is like that. But he runs the motel now since Norman was gone, and it's apparently just like a place where people go and have drugs and have sex. And that's, of course, Norman Bates's, like, it's not what he wants. He doesn't want a trashy place like that. So he fires Toomey, and Toomey gets pissed about it, and he comes back, and then Mother kills him. And it's the first instance of Mother, but like I said, it does a fantastic job of the mystery of who Mother is in this movie, because it is a whodunit, and I think that this is really underrated in that fact that, honestly, I feel like this, and I love this movie, but honestly, I feel like this movie, I thought this would have got more hate, like, because of Norman's not the killer. I thought that this really would have gotten more hate, but it actually surprisingly doesn't for a lot of people. But that's because I feel like whenever you change up something in a sequel, it's a very make or break situation for a lot of people. And I feel like this one, because came out in '83, maybe that's why people weren't as pissy about everything. But this is just a great sequel, and it doesn't follow the formula of the first one in a way, because Norman, like I said, is not the killer. But like I said, Mother comes in and gets him, and then he he and Mary just have more of a bond together, and then they have this scene where it's similar to the first one, where Mary is at the table with him, and he's making sandwiches, and they have no butter knives, so she says, "Hey, here's a butcher knife." Like, she pulls one out of the drawer. And I love the fact that this is such great writing, where Norman is Norman, like what he's done. He married, he doesn't know nothing about it. She gives him a butcher knife. His acting is incredible, because he gives off a look like, I don't want to break, I don't want to do it. And then, like, he just cuts it, but she, like, doesn't even react. And I love the fact that you see that this character is tortured and still in fear of, like, breaking down again and doing something horrible. And, like, it harkens back to the first scene. It's really cool. And I really like that she just doesn't know, but it works really well. And I like the fact that Mary also makes Norman go back into his mother's room, like, because he didn't go before she came over. And she says, like, you got to get over the fear. You got to actually go in there. And he goes in there, and it's fine. But I like whenever they open the door, there's a Hitchcock silhouette, which is not in the other sequels, I don't think, but that was a cool nod to Hitchcock. Like, they literally open the door, and the closet door where Mother's clothes are, it has Hitchcock silhouette, like shadow silhouette. That's really funny. That's cool that they connected that to... And they even had a quirky sounding music for like a brief second, really brief. But it made it sound like Hitchcock's type of what you think about when you think of Hitchcock with the music. But I love that scene where he goes in there. She says, you gotta break your fear, you gotta go in there. And Mary talks to Norman and says, like, I heard from somebody at work that, like, you were locked up. And I think was it Mrs. Spool that told her that? I wonder if that was, but Mary said, like she's weary about him, and Norman's like, please stay, like I'm fine now, I'm totally fine. And she does stay for the first night, and she puts a chair in front of the door, of course, because she knows something. Oh, and Norman says that he killed his mother, like he poisoned her, because she was crazy. But I like that made Mary just, like, she put a chair in front of the door, so she made sure not to, like, to be for her safety. But I like the fact the first night she did that, but after that, they both wear each other down, where Norman is just a sympathetic character, and she really notices and feels that for him. Oh, and actually, I think I went too far. I talked about Toomey already dying, but he dies later. First, I'm going to talk about the scene in the diner where they go back and Norman's working, and then Toomey, after Norman fires him, comes in, is drunk, and is shitty to Mary. And I love the fact that the first night Mary stays over, he says, how was he? Like, how was he in bed, to Mary? And she's like, just because somebody sleeps, two people sleep in the same room, same house, doesn't mean that they made love. And then he's like, yeah, since when? And then I love this comeback from Mary, but Toomey just says, so how was he? How was it being with a loony? And then she said, you want to know how Norman was? Better than you'll ever be, fat boy. And, like, he looks pissed, and I love that reaction that she's so confident in saying that to him. And of course he leaves and is pissed off about it. And then Norman finds a note on the spinning wheel whenever he's giving the orders to the cook, and it says, don't let that little whore in my house again, from Mother. And it's like somebody's leaving notes for him, and like, and it's really great that it really does a good job of, like, it doesn't imply that Lila is doing it at first, it just shows that she's mad at the beginning of the movie. She starts leaving notes everywhere, and somebody else does too. But I'll leave that for whenever I tell you who it is. But Lila leaves notes everywhere, even in the diners, and then Norman looks at it again when everybody's back there and says that there was a note for my mother, and then there's no note there. So is Norman crazy, or did somebody leave a note there? Just, again, it's written so well to where you, at the beginning, as the movie builds up, you don't really know what the truth of the matter is, and it works incredible. And then Mary stays over again that night and takes a shower, and again, Norman, because she says to him, like, I'm gonna go take a shower, and Norman's reaction, just, you know what's happened in the first one. I love how he's just got such a look on his face, like I really like this girl. He doesn't want this personality to take over. He doesn't want anything bad to happen to her. And it doesn't. Like, she takes a shower and comes down, and I like how that played with the audience's expectations, because it made it seem like she's gonna go. But I love this character, and I'm glad that she didn't go in that moment. And then somebody watches her through the peephole, and we don't know who it is. And then she goes downstairs, and Norman's downstairs. So it wasn't Norman, I guess, was it? And like I said, then this is where Toomey gets killed. Because I said that earlier, I meant to say now. This is where he gets killed. But then again, it has another scene of Mary in the bathroom. She's putting on, like, mascara, and then she sees, like, a gleam on the wall, and she sees through the peephole in the actual house. And there's an eye. And she screams, goes downstairs, or screams for Norman, and Norman's downstairs again. So who could it be? And she's really scared because, like, there's got to be somebody. Who else is it? And it wasn't Norman, because he went outside with Dr. Raymond. So it's so good in how they place these characters. Like, it makes it such a mystery. And then Raymond, who is Norman's previous psychiatrist, he was at the beginning of the movie and drove Norman to the house. He talks to the sheriff about tapping Norman's phone, but the sheriff just won't really allow it. He doesn't even think that it's a big deal because Norman's cured, like, he's fine. And then after that, you've got a scene where Norman looks at Mother in the window, like the first one, but Mother's gone. Like, her body's actually, like, in a grave, because you see that later. But, like, somebody's walking around, and is it his imagination? Is it fooling the audience? Again, I love that this has such a good mystery to it, and it's just great storytelling again. And then he goes into Mother's room and finds those, like, it's like one of that weird, like, thing of those hands like this, and it's got, like, a note on it, and it says that get rid of that slut or I'll kill her by Mother again. And it's just, and then Norman goes into the attic, and then the attic door accidentally locks on him. So Norman is stuck up in the attic, and then this is where these kids go into in the basement of the hotel or the basement of the house from outside to go and smoke weed and have sex. And then Mother comes in. The girl gets away, but then Mother kills the kid. And that's a great shot of where you see his hands, like, go down on the foggy window. Like, that's really cool. That's a really good effect, and it harkens back to Hitchcock not showing much. That was a really cool moment. But then Norman wakes up from this nap, and, like, he gets taken out of the attic, I think by Mary. And, like, the sheriff comes in and says, like, Norman, there's a girl in my cop car right now telling me that, like, she's scared to death to get in this house because her boyfriend just got killed down in the basement, in the fruit cellar. And they go down there, and nothing's there at all. Like, there's nobody, no evidence or anything. And then, just everybody looks everywhere in the fruit cellar, there's nothing. And the sheriff just thinks that maybe the kid wasn't actually ran home, and, like, they gotta go wait to find him, make sure he'll come home. And I like the fact that Mary stands up for Norman and says that he was up in the attic. Yeah, the attic was locked. Like, she found him in the attic. that's really cool because it just shows that Norman, like, he's not the killer. Like, he's not the killer at all. It's really a great, again, just a great way of making you think, well, who is it then? Like, there's got to be somebody. But then they also do a great writing thing where, like, Mary says, like, you were locked up there. And then Norman says something like, it wasn't locked from the other side. Like it could unlock on its own. Like, he could have done it himself, so it makes it imply he could still be the killer. Like, it's just really well written. And then Mary gets more and more interested in, like, Norman and why he was institutionalized. And she talks to the sheriff, and the sheriff tells her straight up, like, he killed his mother. He left her down in the fruit cellar. I mean, he had her all around in the house, like, acting like she was alive. And it kind of, it adds to Mary realizing that Norman is crazy, but he's so sympathetic, this character, because he's dominated by this force, like this split personality that he doesn't want, and he wants to get rid of it and be done with it. But then Lila Loomis comes back into the picture and talks to the sheriff about, like, she's annoyed, like, more annoyed at the sheriff, like, has he killed anyone yet? Like, she is really pushing it, and, like, the sheriff just kind of shrugs it off, like, whatever, because she doesn't, like, Lila just gets more and more pissed about it. And I like the fact that she obviously does kind of make it seem like something more is going on with her, and putting the notes around her and everything. But yeah, so Mary goes into this hotel, into the motel, like, because Norman's up at the house, and then she finds somebody's watching her, and it's Lila. And then you realize that Lila is her mother, Mary's mother, which is really cool. That's a really cool thing that you just I didn't even think about whenever I've seen it before. The first time I saw it, I was like, wow, that's so cool that they're related, and you just never thought anything of it. And they never said anything to imply that. And I love the fact that what it made me think is, did Mary lie the whole time about having a boyfriend and living there because she had Lila? So, I don't know. But I thought that was a really cool twist, the first cool twist of the movie, where you realize that they're mother and daughter, and they're in it together. But I love the fact that Mary is guilt-stricken. Like, she doesn't want Norman to go crazy, and she likes this person. He's such a nice, caring person who is dominated by this manifestation of his mother, and, like, he wants to be rid of it. And I love the fact that she stands up to Lila, and she goes, like, she like, really, like, she says to her mother, like, no, like, that boy is gone, like, he could be killed. And, like Lila says that to Mary, and then Mary said, no, Norman was up in the attic the whole time, I locked him in there. So she locked him in the attic. And then Mary mentions a couple things that Lila didn't do. She mentions, like, the bloody clothes that are in the toilet that flush out. And then Lila's like, what? I never did that. And she's like, come on, Mother, you did that. And, like, again, it hints to somebody else is in on this. But I love that. Again, it's written so well, so it's like you don't know who it is. And Mary thinks there's somebody else in the house. And then I love how Lila gets more mad after Mary stands up to her, and Lila just says, you're as crazy as he is. And I love scenes like that where, like, Lila's getting more and more pissed, but I could see why. She's just going crazy because of losing her sister and losing her husband. Like, she lost everything because of Norman, so she wants him to go back, but she's just so overly, drastically trying to stop it. And then Mary, again, sees somebody in the peephole in the house and gets a gun, and then Norman runs in the room, and again, it wasn't him. And Mary thinks it's Lila, and even calls the hotel, and Lila isn't there. Or she doesn't answer at the hotel. So it's somebody else, maybe. And then Mary goes to sleep with Norman because they think somebody's in the house, and Norman just stays up, and he has a knife, and he actually has it up in the air right by Mary while she sleeps, and Mary wakes up, and she sedates Norman, gets a knife from him, and just holds him, and like says it's gonna be okay. And moments like that make these characters so likable and such a great couple. Like, they're not in a relationship, but like it feels like it could be romantic, but they don't. Like I said, they don't go on that. They don't go on the romantic part of it. But Norman starts to think he's going crazy again because of the kid being gone, and he has those kind of blackouts. So I really think that's cool. And like I said, she keeps him company. And then Raymond comes and talks to Norman about Lila Loomis and how Mary is her daughter, and how they're messing with him, and realizes, like the sheriff realizes, that those notes were left by Lila and Mary. So, and Norman doesn't believe him really, so they go to the gravesite and dig up the Norman's mother's grave, and she's in there, and Norman, you would think, is like, oh, okay, like she's actually gone. But then again, he sees somebody in the window, so it's like, it really, I don't know, it really gives a good job of who is it. And then I love the scene in the hotel. This is one of my favorite scenes in the movie, where Mary and Lila have their second conversation, and there's a guy listening at, like, the guy at the service desk is listening at the hotel, and Mary goes up to Lila and says, "Stop messing with Norman. Stop it." Like she wants to save Norman. She doesn't want him to go crazy now. She didn't realize what she was really into. And like I said earlier, this is the scene actually where she's talking about leaving stuff there that Lila didn't do, and you realize that somebody else is doing something as well to them, like the bloody clothes in the toilet. Like, I love how Lila responds like, "What? I didn't do that. What are you talking about?" And then Mary just screams, "Yes, you did, Mother. Quit doing this." And then I love the fact that Lila just says that, "Why don't you do it for your dead aunt and your dead father?" And I love the fact that Mary just says, "I'm not living for dead people anymore, Mother. Not your aunt, not my father, not even you." Foreshadowing. But of course it's obvious foreshadowing, but it works. It works really well. And then Norman talks to Mary about this whenever Mary comes back, and Mary stays silent, like, about being part of Lila's scheme. And Norman answers the phone, and this is where he loses it. And he says, like, he's talking on the phone, like, I think to the sheriff, and he's like, "Yes, Mother." And the sheriff's like, "Norman, it's me. It's not your mother." And then it's hung up. He's still talking on the phone to his mother, like she's there. And Mary finally tells the truth to him, and it's a really good scene, because Mary just, like, you understand why this character is like this, like, but you really do feel like she's sorry for this horrible situation that she's putting this character through. And I don't know, like, it's really good. But the sheriff goes down and finds Toomey's stuff in the swamp, so they realize that there is a killer. There's somebody killing. I think it's Norman. And Mary asked the sheriff if Norman had ever been adopted because of something she heard earlier. Foreshadowing. But I think that's really cool. And that's one of the twists I'll talk about, where it's like, oh, that's something people hate, but it didn't bother me at all. I was like, oh, okay, it's not too bad. And then we get towards the ending, where it gets really, even though it's already fantastic as well, the rest of the movie, it's fantastic at the end too. Lila comes into the Bates house, and Raymond is on her tail, like, watching her, because he knows that she's been doing all these things. And she pulls out the mother wig and clothes out of the floor, because she's going to go and stand at the window or something, which that was her from earlier, or Mary, one of the two. But then the other mother comes in and kills her, like somebody else with a wig and hair, or a wig and a mother outfit come in, and her death is incredibly gruesome. Like, it's quick. It's just like, and her scream, her reaction is a reaction kind of like Marion Crane in the first movie when she's in the shower when she screams. This is the same kind of reaction, but then she gets a knife through her head, through her mouth, out the back of her head. And that kind of worked in a way for this character being so quote-unquote horrible. Like, you do understand why she's doing this, but man, she is just making this guy break. And I love how when you realize who the killer is, like, the killer angrily got her because of what she was trying to do. But yeah, that's so great whenever she dies. And I liked how Mary goes downstairs and like Nicole kind of moves, like Mary, Norman, and Raymond keep going downstairs, and Nicole moves a couple times where Lila was killed, so you don't see it at first, but she's in there, which is a cool little subtle nod to whenever you find her. And then Mary gets more scared whenever she comes back again from the swamp, like from the sheriff, and says, Norman, like, they found Toomey, like, we gotta get out of here. And he's not really reacting at all. And then he's losing it again on the phone, where he's talking to his mother on the phone and saying, like, don't make me kill her, I don't want to kill her, like, don't make me do that. And Mary goes in, gets the wig and the dress, gets on the phone on the upstairs and says, Norman, this is your mother, just get off the phone. And like, he's not even responding. And then she goes down wearing the mother outfit and says to him, Norman, how can I be on the phone if I'm right here? And then Norman, just no matter what, is just losing it. And then I love the fact that Lila accidentally kills Raymond, and I think that it works really well. It's kind of a cheesy, quick moment, but it works, where Raymond falls down the stairs with the knife that she accidentally stabs him with because she thinks it's Norman and he's just in the house, Raymond is, and she stabs Raymond. He falls down, he hits the knife into him like when he falls off on a stair ledge, and that, man, brutal. That sucks, that the way he died like that. But then after she accidentally kills him, Norman just starts following her, like, lost, like he's lost, he's gone. Mary has a knife. She just keeps, like, stabbing his hand. He grabs the knife, like, he tries to grab, like, the sharp edges, and he just gets cut. And she's just she's going down the stairs with him on her tail. And then Nicole moves downstairs, and she finds her mother. And she's like, you killed them all. And then the cops come in and shoot Mary. Mary wearing the wig of his mother. So Mary and Lila are considered the killers. Which, like, it sucks to see Mary go, and I like the fact that she has a change of character whenever you realize how she's done a horrible thing, but she changes so much in this movie, but it just sucks whenever she dies. But I mean, it makes sense, because you gotta have Norman go crazy again, but he isn't the killer in this movie, which is fantastic, and neither are Lila or Mary. So you get to Norman gets out scot-free, like, he's done. He goes home, and the Mrs. Spool character that I mentioned, this is the last twist, where apparently they didn't even have this in the script. Like, only a couple of people knew, because they wanted to make sure nobody knew this twist. Like, this was a very elaborate twist, but the Mrs. Spool character comes in and explains it all. She killed everybody in the movie, and it was perfect timing for her, because Lila and Mary were putting all these notes and stuff and making Norman seem crazy. But she was in the house as well with them whenever all this shit was going down. And I love her response in that she is Norman's mother in this movie. She says she's his mother, and he was adopted by her sister. Which is a twist that people were annoyed at, because it did change up the first film, but I thought it was a great twist. I thought that worked really well. And the Mrs. Spool character was really cool in that last scene, where she's like, she says lines like, "Yeah, I had to go kill them when they were trying to get my little boy, like trying to like mess with my little boy, like Lila and Mary, like she killed Lila." So I thought that was a great twist, and I love the fact that then after she tells the whole truth that she killed everybody, Norman gets a shovel, just hits her in the head, and uses her body, like her dead body, as mother. And that's the only person he kills in this movie, which is, again, just a really cool way of changing up this story from the first film. And Spool was Norma's maiden name, so I thought that was cool that they're related, and it was just a cool twist that she was the actual mother. But then, of course, Norman takes her body upstairs and talks to her like he did with the old mother body, and then he sets her up, perched at the window, goes outside, and there's that incredible shot of the clouds coming in, Norman standing up, and it's the picture on the Blu-ray where like he's standing outside with the clouds. That's an incredible shot. One of the coolest shots in the franchise, and just he's ready for business again. And this whole movie just blows me away with how incredibly well written it is, how these characters are incredibly, like with the acting and with the writing, they're just incredible. And this is more of it's just an incredible horror movie because it's so interesting and how it's a different thing than the first one. He's not the killer. And the mystery of who the killer is so well written, so incredibly well written, that it's just, you never know who it is until the very end. And whenever it happens at the end, the twist doesn't feel ham-fisted. It feels like it actually, like, I feel like I believe that this character was like the sister of Norma, and like it just really all fell together perfectly. Just the writing is incredible, the characters are incredible. It feels so much like the first one in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways it changes from the first one, which is a perfect way, I think, for a sequel to be. It's got to be like the original, but it's got to evolve. It can't be the same movie again, even if I enjoy it. It's like, this one I feel like is such a fantastic, underrated movie, one of the most underrated horror movies ever. I really think that this just blows me away every time. I love it just as much as the original. For different reasons. The original is just incredible on its own right for everything about it. This one is an incredible sequel that is a character piece, as opposed to the first one where it is a character piece in a way, but this one is more a character piece. It is about this character coming to terms with coming back to home and having his demons fight him, his mother, like, in his head, and having Mary and Lila and his real mother in this movie have all of them haunt him, and it just is incredibly well written and so interesting, and it's just a fantastic sequel. So I love this one so much, and I can't wait to talk about Psycho 3 because I actually didn't really like it that much the first couple times I've seen it. I haven't seen it as much as the first two, but when I first watched it a long time ago, I thought it was just okay. But I watched it again last night and thought it was actually really good and really surprising. So Psycho 3 is next. Thanks for watching this one, and hope you watch the next one.